Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It is Brad and Ben, a dual podcast. We're running it back. Today, we're going to be going over some of Colorado's latest hires. Tom Herman to FAU, what's going to go on in Cincinnati, Luke Wisconsin, Deion Sanders linked to a few different Cincinnati, Colorado, USF. It's getting interesting. So we're going to go over them. I'm going to show some of what Deion has produced so far down in Jackson, Mississippi with Jackson State. But I'll turn it over to Ben for his reaction to the Luke Fickell hire.
As a Big Ten fan, I think Wisconsin is a good decision. Fickell is I've seen a lot of Ohio State fans fire Ryan Day, hire Luke Fickell, but he's at Wisconsin now, and he's a guy that's a really good coach. I think that team is already in an okay place. And with a good coach, they're going to be dangerous. It's consistently a good team in the Big Ten. And honestly, if he wants, it could be a stepping point to an even, in the future, bigger team down the line. But good hire for Wisconsin for sure. Kind of interested in Deion Sanders.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Fickell really quickly. I think that's an amazing opportunity for him, and also it's just a perfect fit. Wisconsin's in the Big Ten West, which is known to not be as competitive as the East. I think he can really recruit the Midwest well, and I think he will with Wisconsin. It's much easier to recruit at Wisconsin than it is at Cincinnati for obvious reasons. The traditions in Madison are there. The fan base is much bigger and much more passionate than Cincinnati is. Just that's my assumption, and it's probably a pretty true one. But it's I just think it's a perfect fit. Luke Fickell has had success. This year was a little bit of a down year, but with a new quarterback, he had the redshirt sophomore prior, and losing Desmond Ridder was tough. Lost Sauce Gardner, Kobe Bryant, a lot of weapons. Alec Pierce, going 9-3 was still a success, and I just think Luke Fickell is going to take Wisconsin's program to the next level. But I'll touch on Deion Sanders. Reportedly, he's down in Colorado, USF, and Cincinnati. I would not be shocked if he stays. Some people don't want to think that's a possibility, but I think it is. I think he could stay at Jackson State because what's going to happen to Travis Hunter, his son? Are they all going to go with him? Probably. But he has to make his mind up soon with the transfer portal and everything. I've heard USF is looking at Tom Allen from Indiana a little bit. Indiana's been down. He might want to go back to the South. I've heard mixed reports, but that'd be pretty shocking to go from a Power 5 to a Group 5, but I don't know. I've seen that floated around, and then I don't know. I feel like if I'm Deion, I would do better in the South, but at the same time, Colorado's known to be successful in the 90s. They pumped out some great teams, and Cincinnati's been very, very good the last few years. But I think Colorado would make the most sense out of all of them. They're a Power 5 team. The Pac-12 is not as dominant as the SEC or Big Ten. It's a little bit easier. I just think that would work very well. It's a little easier to recruit in Colorado. Kids like to go to Colorado. Just Ben and I are seniors in high school, and Colorado's a favorite destination for a lot of our classmates, and I think that that's true with these recruits as well.
Yeah, Deion, huge. I agree with Brad about Colorado being the prime spot because it's a big-name school that's fallen under hard times, but with Deion's ability on the recruiting trail and just kind of the vibe of Colorado in general, I think that could be a really good spot for him. Cincinnati, I'm not sure if that's as good a fit. That's more of like a coach school, blue collar, kind of get the guy. But I mean, it is Deion, so he would probably make it work. But I think Colorado is a better option. And also, I agree with Brad. He could stick around Jackson State. He's having a lot of fun there, and they're still recruiting amazingly well. The only thing is there's only so high a ceiling can go in Jackson State.
Sure.
If he wants to move beyond kind of beating up on some other teams that are not as big and don't have the same talent pool, I think Colorado, for the options he has right now, is the best.
I think he should stick around, though. Stick around
for a better job.
DC job will open next year. I think he'd do well in the South. I think he's the guy who would succeed in the South. I think Auburn should have looked at him a little bit more. Hugh Freeze getting that job, I think that's a pretty bad hire just off the bat. I don't like Hugh Freeze very much.
Not a good person.
Not a good person, not a good coach. I don't think he's going to have any success in the Plains. I would hope, there were reports that Lane Kiffin was getting that job. That would have been a pretty good hire. But when you think of it from Lane's do that. He's having a lot of success with Ole Miss. He has everything there, young talent. There's just no point to switch. So I understand the hire. Hugh Freeze has had success in the SEC before at Ole Miss years ago, but just with the allegations, he's been very average. He's been good at Liberty, but he hasn't done what Luke Fickell, let's say, has done with Cincinnati. So yeah.
And Liberty just had an insanely bad end to their year. They lost to UConn, New Mexico. They got beat by New Mexico State by, I think, 35, and they were 24-point favorites. It's just a soundbite. So 59-point swing from the spread, which is just ridiculous. I think he was already kind of looking out the door, which is kind of a bad look to your part like that when you're considering other job options. But Hugh Freeze has never really been a guy that people look at as a model figure. He's more of a recruiter, and he's gotten good teams when he was at Ole Miss. But he comes with a controversy that I don't think Auburn needs after the whole Harsin thing.
Totally.
So, not a fan of the hire. I don't think he'll work out, but we'll see.
I agree. Now, finally, with a minute or two left, let's touch on Tom Herman. Ex-Texas coach, has bounced around as a name for an offensive coordinator job or two, also for a few smaller head coaching jobs, getting the FAU job. FAU, let's not forget, Lane Kiffin, he was just there a few years ago. He produced some talent there. It's a big JUCO school. A lot of Florida kids go there, so there's definitely some talent. I'm not a fan of Tom Herman personally. Hey, he produced Sam Ehlinger. He's produced some talent at Texas. Texas was decent. They won the Sugar Bowl, I believe, when he was the coach. And Sam Ehlinger's back, not really. But I don't know. I don't think it's a terrible hire. It's FAU.
It's not.
The standards are much lower, but I also don't think Tom Herman is really going to change a whole lot.
I agree. I think FAU seems to be looking for bigger names. Yeah, FAU's a smaller team that kind of is in the Conference USA that wants a big name coach. I think Tom Herman delivers there, and I mean, it is what it is. It's not a hire that's going to shake up the college football world or anything like that. But just kind of an interesting thing to note. But yeah, let's talk about Matt Rule as our last topic of discussion, because I'm honestly a pretty big fan of what Nebraska just did. I think the guy is a really good coach. What he did with Baylor in only a couple years, turning that team, which was at one point probably the worst in the Big 12 and really looking ugly, putting them back on the map. And that Carolina, we can talk about what went wrong there. He didn't do quite as well as everyone would have thought.
It's tough to go from college.
Going from college to NFL, we saw with Nick Saban, it's not something that is easy at all. Matt Rule's a college coach, and Nebraska did a really good thing with this hire, I think.
Oh, yeah. I think this was the perfect hire for them. I think Rule is passionate. Now, I thought the same thing with Scott Frost. I didn't know how he would mess it up this bad, so we'll see what happens. But really big fan of the hire. He's going to recruit well. I just love him as a person and as a coach, and I think they're going to have some success next year in Lincoln. So that's the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment if you have any questions for Ben and I. And that is it from us. Peace.